So when I think about what would he say if he was here today to us, this is what I come up with. And by the way, everybody, I'm watching the chat. So if you have a specific question around something, or for me or for Annie, that we can jump in and help, we want to serve you during this time. And so in the book Stronger, there are basically 5 things that I covered. The virus-proof mindset, and that's where that quote that Annie's asking me about is going to come in. And then how can we get through this time and emerge stronger? And so I'm going to talk about a daily affirmation, a perfect start. And is anybody here, just type in the word 3 a.m. Has anybody here woken up at 3 a.m. or in the middle of the night during this last month? Anybody besides me? Type that in the chat. Type in the chat the word 3 a.m. Yeah, a lot of people have. And so it's because we want our businesses to be successful. We've got people on our team who we love and care about. We've got our own family. And yeah, Tim, I'm with you many times. And so I put together kind of a strategy on what happens when you wake up in the middle of the night. How can you handle that? And then I'm going to finish off today with the Ziglar 7-step problem solving system. But here's the quote. If Zig Ziglar were alive today, and this is what I think he would tell us. So this quote he said 40 years ago: expect the best, prepare for the worst, and maximize what comes. And so let me break that down. This is a stronger mindset. So what does it mean to expect the best? Well, this is what I truly believe. We've got to have an attitude of hope and encouragement. I mean, look at our country and what we've already been through in our own lives. Everybody's experience is a little different, but we always get through these things. And so we can look into the future with hope and encouragement. We can also create an attitude of gratitude. I mean, just think of all the places in the world where we have to go through this. This is where I want to be. And we've got family, and we've got friends, and we've got coworkers. And so when we expect the best, when we understand, you know what, today's not fun, it's not easy, I wish it was different, but tomorrow's going to be better, or the next day. And the reality is we don't know how long this is going to roll on. But when we expect the best, when we put the good, the clean, the pure, the powerful, and the positive into our mind, when we put on our face the little curve that sets everything straight, that's what we call a smile. When we have that look of gritty determination in our eyes, and our voice is a little bit upbeat, when we expect the best, what that literally does, and this is scientific and it's medically proven, it raises our spirits. And when we raise our spirits, we boost our immune system. Okay, so everything I'm talking about during this time is all upside, no downside. And I know Annie is a CPA. That's the kind of deal you like, right?
Absolutely. And you know what? It's during these desperate times, like some of our businesses are really in desperate situations right now. In fact, as I was driving to work today, you know, just watching and seeing all those businesses close down. And yet, what can we do to help bring some encouragement? But it demands like a lot of creativity. And all of our business leaders, I mean, you're a business leader and a owner because you have creativity. And you know what is out there. I had one of our manufacturers just call me just devastated. What am I going to do? Well, he just purposed his facility, and he said, Annie, I think I'm going to have the best month I've ever had. Taking the situation, and instead of just not doing anything about it, kind of getting our creative hats going and starting to move forward.
Yeah. That's it, right? I mean, so we're expecting the best. And what Annie said there is the truth. Our Creator, God, has given us an amazing gift. And I think it's our number one gift, and that's our creativity. And if our attitude's not right, we can't unleash that. But look at the second part here, because how does this make sense? We can expect the best. We can have hope and encouragement. We've got the attitude of gratitude, but we've also got to prepare for the worst. So what does that mean? Well, let's just suppose we look into the future and this takes longer than we want it to. How can we prepare for the worst? Well, we can start with our physical, our mental, and our spiritual. You know, we can exercise every day. We can get the right kind of nutrition in. We can go out and get some vitamin D, get some sun. We can get our 8 hours of sleep. And when we do that, we create capacity in our life. So preparing for the worst is all about capacity. And then we look into our business and we say, okay, if this takes longer than I want it to, what can I do right now to prepare for that? So here's what happens. When we prepare for the worst, we create capacity, we create margin. And margin's what we all need right now. And so that allows us to do the last part, which is maximize what comes. So what does that mean? Well, you've probably already had it. You've probably already had the 3 a.m. text from somebody, the direct message on social media, the email, the phone call, and they're scared, they're nervous, they're worried, they don't know what's going to happen. So how do you maximize that? Well, from a human relationship perspective, I believe that maybe our greatest purpose, our greatest calling that we all have in common is to lighten the load of those around us. And so you pour into them, you listen to them, you encourage them, you say, oh, I'm so grateful you called me. How can I help? What can I do? And on a relationship level, just listening and letting them know that, hey, we're going to get through this together. I'm here for you. And then you do a little bit extra. What does that mean? It means that the next day or a few days later, you send them a text. Hey, I was thinking about you. I was praying for you. Or you call them up and say, hey, thank you so much for calling me. How are things today? Is there anything I can help with? Our business is the same way. Our business, a client, a customer calls us and they're distraught, kind of like what you had, Annie. You had a distraught customer. What am I going to do? And so instead of focusing on the problem, which we don't have much control of right now, I wish somebody here had the cure, but probably none of us do. What we can do is focus on the solution. So if a customer calls you, a client, and they say, hey, I'm going through a hard time, I'm knee deep in problems, can you help me? What do? Well, you roll up your sleeves, virtually, of course, but you roll up your sleeves and you dig in and you help them solve those problems. One of my good friends, and he's a mentor of mine, his name is Rabbi Daniel Lappin, and he said this. He said, God is never happier with his children than when they're solving the problems of his other children. Man, that's a powerful, powerful thing. So even in this time of uncertainty and, just overall weirdness, I don't know about everybody else. It feels like March 97th to me. I mean, it's just like, it's Groundhog's Day. And yet we're dealing with all this stuff. So when a customer calls you and you have some margin, then you can roll up your sleeves and make it happen. So how do we do that? Here's the fuel that we've got to have. When we choose the right input, we have taken the most important step we can take in determining the right outcome. And this is where I really want to encourage you. I've done a ton of study over the last month on black swan events and human psychology and the way people respond or react to this stuff. And I can tell you that we all need to limit our negative news input to like 5 to 10 minutes a day. Okay. We need to know the facts. We need to know, wash our hands and social distance, and we need to know that stuff. But beyond that, once we get the facts, we need to get out of the social media conversations. We need to get out of the little groups talking about, things we can't control. And we need to start inputting the things that are going to prepare us for the future ahead. And so just as a little step back here, I'd like for everybody just to mentally do this and maybe write down the words 3 buckets. In the first bucket, I want you to write down all your skills, all your gifts, all your talents, your experience, your track record of success, all the things that you've done well, okay? And in the middle bucket, I want you to write down all of your clients, everybody you serve, your family, your church community, maybe you volunteer somewhere, your customers. And I want you to write those down. How do you serve them today? How does your business serve them? And then in the third bucket, I want you to look into the future and I want you to think about the problems that the people you serve today are going to have as we come through this. Because here's the reality. If you can learn today and start thinking about how you can solve those future problems, then you're gonna be in a fantastic situation. That's just a little bit of wisdom. Is there anything you want to add there, Annie?
Yeah, you know what? You talk a little bit about that also in your book, Choose to Win, Tom, or you really talk about, that having that desire to help people and bringing that hope and then the grit that it takes to get there. And grit is really that, the courage and the strength of character to help people, to step out and help them going through what they're going through. And then when that happens, we're both successful. We're both then moving in a good and right direction. And so helping, thinking that through as our businesses are in complete change. We've had to all flip over and learn new things. Just even this Zoom, every time I do a Zoom, I'm getting like, oh my gosh, am I doing it right? Because I'm still, all this technology is so new. And I'm sure all of you guys have had to, change your processes and procedures. I know you guys have with us. We're like, guys, sorry, we're trying to figure this out. And all of the laws that we're trying to understand and keep up with and communicate to everyone, how can we be helpful to you during this time and give you all of the tools that you need to, get more money from the government or, process. We've just had, it's kind of like all of our clients needed us all at the same time in the last 3 weeks. And so we're doing our best to help you guys get through that. And just we've done multiple webinars on technical information. I thought, what can we do to just be an encouragement to all of our clients? And so,
So
great stuff here.
Let me dig into some encouragement, okay? And so I want everybody to literally to look into the screen. I'm looking into the camera and I'm talking to you. So here's the thing, the stronger mindset, expect the best, prepare for the worst, maximize what comes. That is the way forward. Scientifically, medically, we know it boosts our spirits. And when our spirits are boosted, our immune system's improved. And then when we boost the spirits of other people, the same thing happens to them. And that's what everybody needs right now, is they need that steely, gritty, determining smile in our face, in our voice that says, hey, we're going to get through this together. But it's also so important for our family. I mean, my number one account is my wife. I mean, if I'm going to service a business, it's going to be her. It's going to be my child, my 25-year-old daughter. So what is this saying? Legacy is intentionally preparing those you love to grow through life's most difficult challenges. So if you have a family at home, hopefully everybody does, just type in family, because you know what? They're looking at you right now, your kids, your spouse, your brothers, your sisters, your aunts, your uncles, your parents, everybody, the neighbors that you've adopted into your life, they're looking at you and they're asking them there's this question, hey, are they doing okay? And the signals that you send out either give them hope in the future or create a worse situation. Tom Brokaw said this. He said that the greatest generation that we've ever had in the United States was the men and women who fought in World War II. I mean, think about it. We went into war, we were unprepared, we didn't have the resources, we didn't have the equipment, we didn't have the training, and within a few years, we won World War II. And then those men and women came home and the greatest economic boom that ever happened took place. Yeah, they were the greatest generation, but were they? My friend Andy Andrews told me this. He said, Tom, they weren't the greatest generation. The greatest generation were the men and women who raised the men and women who fought in World War II. In other words, the parents of the men and women who fought in World War II, they were the greatest generation. Why? They raised their kids during the Great Depression. They worked from sun up to sundown just to make ends meet. They didn't have any stuff. All they had was principles and values and love and each other. And so this is what I believe, and I'm looking at you right now. I believe that we have the opportunity right now to raise the greatest generation our country's ever seen. And it's going to depend on us. And literally, I think it's going to depend on small business owners, people who have responsibility, not only for their family, but for the people on their team. When they see us standing tall with, we're getting hit from all sides, that's true. But when they see us standing tall, knowing that there's hope in the future, that we can get through this, then that really impacts us. One of the books, did you have something there, Annie?
No, I'm just like very agreeing with you. I think, you know, just your whole entire message, we can become stronger through this. I've talked to my staff and we said, you know what, we are learning such skills that we never would have before. We're changing how we work, and we're not going to return the same way. I think we're going to be stronger after this and have processes and procedures so much better that we can serve our clients even better. So I really even see our own firm getting stronger through this and helping our clients even more in a greater way.
Yep, absolutely. And the stronger word is the Ziglar word. I read a book, I've been through it twice now. It's called Anti-Fragile. It's by Nassim Taleb. And he talks about anti-fragility or being anti-fragile. And so this is a powerful concept and I want you to understand it. And so what does that mean? Well, the easiest way to explain it is anti-fragile. The opposite is fragile. So what does fragile mean? It means weak or easily broken or destroyed. And this is what we do not want to be, right? We don't want to be fragile. We don't want to be weak. So what do we want to be? We want to be strong. We want to be robust. We want to be resilient. We want to be gritty. These are fantastic words. Okay. Make no doubt about it. These are fantastic words. But at Ziglar, what we teach is we want to go one step further. And so what does that mean? Well, look at the definition of anti-fragile, a property of systems that increase in capability to thrive as a result of stressors, shocks, volatility, noise, mistakes, faults, attacks, or failures. I mean, think about it. When we are attacked, when we come under stress, what if we look at that as an opportunity to get stronger? And I'll tell you this, God created us this way. Think about it. If we want to build stronger muscles, what do? We lift weights. The stress, the pressure of the weight breaks down, tears down the muscle fibers. And then they grow back what? Stronger. And so many times women, they go to the doctor when they reach the age of menopause and the doctor says, hey, wait a second. We don't want your bones to get weak because of osteoporosis. You should go and lift weights. You should go and lift weights. And what does that mean? It means that when we lift weights, our bones actually get stronger. The weight of the weight, the pressure of the stress. And so we're created this way. So the stronger mindset, instead of running and hiding from the pressure of the change, the uncertainty, embraces it and says, okay, what good is going to have that's going to come out of this? I just got a note in, somebody said they can't hear. You might want to leave and come back in. That might be the easiest way. I think most people can hear. So that's just a little tip there. And so that's the stronger mindset. And I want everybody to know that I'm going to tie this down spiritually at the end, because I believe that, looking at my father's life and my life, that this is the way we were created. I'm going to show that. Any thoughts before we go to the next session there, Annie?
You're doing great. Thanks for sharing with us.
All right. So I'll rock it and just keep on going here. So one of the things that we can do during this time to create the stronger mindset is this. We can practice a daily affirmation. And so I want to tell you a story. I learned this from Seth Godin. And I'm going to ask this question of everybody. So here's the question. What is the most powerful story in the world? Just type it in, whatever you think it is. What is the most powerful story in the world? Let's see what we get back from everybody. I love getting interaction on these because when you do so Sean says your story. Yeah, I love it. Anybody else? The resurrection. Amen to that. Anybody else? The life of Jesus. Love it. Resurrection. The resurrection. Jesus. All right. We're right around Easter, so we're getting a lot of that. The crucifixion. Creation. Yep. I'm with you. Anybody else? So I'll tell it to you from a psychological point of view. The most powerful story in the world is the story you tell yourself. Mm-hmm. So Seth Godin talks about a story, and he talks about a sleep medication. And golly, I can't remember the name of it. So anybody know the name of a medication or a drug that you take to help you sleep at night? I will get this back in a second. So not melatonin. It's not natural. It's actually a pharmaceutical. These are coming in, Sominex, Ambien, that's it. Okay. So here's the thing. They did this study on Ambien. And Ambien, I was in Houston on a sales call, and the VP of sales that I met with had a sling in his shoulder. And I said, what happened to your shoulder? And he said, I broke that. And I said, how did you break it? And he said, well, I can't sleep at night, so I took my Ambien, and then I forgot that I already took a pill of Ambien, and so I took another pill, and then I woke up in the middle of the night sleepwalking, not really waking up, right? And he walked into his swimming pool, which was empty, and he fell and he broke his shoulder. And I go, that's crazy. And so Seth Godin talks about Ambien, and he says, hey, you know, they did the sleep studies on Ambien. Anybody, when you take, Ambien has all kinds of side effects. You sleepwalking, sleep cooking, people will mow their yards in the middle of the night. I mean, crazy stuff happens as a side effect of Ambien. Does anybody know how much extra sleep you get when you take Ambien versus when you don't take Ambien? Anybody want to guess? How much extra time do you get? So Jamie says 0. Anybody else? So you're going to take this drug that's going to help you get more sleep. Anybody else want to guess? 0 is a pretty good guess, by the way. All right. So maybe less, none. Okay. We got a pretty educated group here. So here it is. On average, all the sleep studies, you get 17 minutes more sleep with the brain waves when you take Ambien than when you don't take Ambien. Isn't that amazing that you would risk all that stuff for 17 minutes? But you know why it's effective, why it really works? The number one property of Ambien is it's an amnesiac. So here's what happens. You get up in the morning and you're like, I don't remember anything. I took that Ambien last night at 8 o'clock and it's 7 o'clock in the morning. I got 11 hours of sleep. Well, no, you didn't, because the video in your house shows you cooking breakfast at 3 a.m. in the morning and mowing the yard at 4, okay? So because it's an amnesiac, you don't remember anything, and then you know what you do? This is what you do. You tell yourself a story. You say, wow, I got 11 hours of sleep. I feel fantastic. And so here's what happens, is you go through the day like you had 11 hours of sleep. Your body and your mind actually perform like that. Now, eventually that'll catch up with you, but here's the point. The story you tell yourself determines everything. And so in the book, Stronger, we came up with an affirmation. And so I'm going to show you that affirmation. I'm going to walk through it quickly, but just know when you get the book, you'll have it there. And you want to say this, any affirmation, you want to say the whole thing twice daily. Okay, in the morning and in the evening, you want to get your unconscious mind thinking about this. And then there's a phrase in the affirmation that I'll talk about. So here's the affirmation. That's a lot of words on one page, so I'll break it down. But this is what I do. I say constantly all day long, I'm getting stronger and stronger every day in every way. And I'll do that 100 times a day. Well, why am I doing that? Because we already have so much input, so much education. We know what we need to do to get stronger. We need to read the right stuff, listen to the right information. We need to work out, exercise, eat the right food. We already know that. But when we affirm that, when that's the story that we tell ourselves, then guess what? Our subconscious mind starts giving us directions to go and do it. And then look at these simple things here. I'm expecting the best, preparing for the worst, and maximizing what comes. Does that sound familiar? I commit daily to growing and learning in every area of my life. You know, Dad's mentor, Fred Smith, said this. He said, we've got to grow the food in the valley that we're going to eat on the mountaintop. And that's where we are right now. We're in a valley, and so we're growing the food. And then I'm not going to read all these, but look at this. I believe James 1, 2, and 3. That's my life verse. Consider all joy, my brethren, when we encounter various trials, knowing the testing of our faith produces endurance. I mean, how powerful is that to know that we are getting stronger in this? I'm not alone. I've got friends. I've got family. I mean, I've got an amazing CPA I can call. hey, I need some help, right? So when we talk about an affirmation, the reason that we do it is we've got to unlock all of the creativity, all of the information, all of the character qualities that we have inside of us. And then we finish it off. I'm getting stronger and stronger every day in every way. Now, I'll tell you another little story, and then Annie, if you want to jump in after I tell this story before we go to the next one. Uh, I there's an affirmation I would tell myself before this, and that was, I am getting fitter and fitter every day in every way. And the reason was, is I had a health goal. I wanted to lose those last 20 pounds. And I was talking to my coach on that, and he said, yeah, that's a great, I said, what should I tell myself? And he gave me that phrase. And so for like 3 weeks, I was saying that 50 to 100 times a day. And then it happened. 3 weeks into it, I'm at the mall. And I park my car and I walk in, and then I suddenly stop in the middle of the parking lot and I look back at my car, and it's like 20 spaces away from the front door to the mall. Now, you got to know me. I'm like a vulture when it comes to parking at the mall, right? I like to get like right next to the door where I go in. And here, I had just parked in the first spot I found far away. And I thought to myself, why did I do that? And then I remembered, because I've read it 100 times. If you want to burn a few extra calories every day, park your car away from the entrance, take the stairs, do all these things. And because I was telling myself I'm getting fitter and fitter every day in every way, I just immediately found a spot that allowed me to become fitter and fitter. And so I want to encourage you during this time, say to yourself over and over again, I'm getting stronger and stronger every day in every way. So any thoughts on that, Annie?
Yeah, the daily affirmations, not only for ourselves, but our employees. So if you're not with your employees every day, what can you do? And I think what I realized during this time is we have multiple offices, and some people that do normally work from home, and then other locations. And here at our current location, I was walking around every day and saying good morning, but I wasn't doing that to the whole staff. So now we have a good morning message that we send out every single morning. So encouraging, letting everybody know what's going on in the firm, but saying some encouraging words, saying a scripture, saying what's happening, happy birthdays, making sure we're communicating that. So we still keep this good communication up. And now all of our departments, they're doing Zoom meetings so I can see everybody's faces. I've even sent them a video of me saying good morning to them. And so not only do we, filling ourselves with those positive words, but also encouraging our staff and filling them with a daily positive word. Because working from home is different for many people. And sometimes it's a little bit more difficult to get motivated and get to moving through all of that.
Absolutely. And you know what? There's a ton of wisdom right there, because the context of relationships now with a remote workforce, with a team working from home, is totally different. Before, in the office environment, you had the coffee pot conversations. You would stop by somebody's office or desk and say, hey, did you hear about so-and-so? You would have a meeting and you would see facial expression and, side conversations and all that. And that's very difficult right now. And so what we've got to do is we've got to overcompensate and over communicate and leave space for that. And so sending those emails like that, having Zoom meetings, and, even a Zoom meeting that is like 20 or 30% social right now is a totally good thing, right? Because it's about encouragement. Let me jump into the next one. Okay. So the next part of the book is called The Perfect Start. And so this is what I've discovered. And actually this is right out of the book, Choose to Win. But we've got to keep a routine. And so to me, the most powerful routine, and when you go and look at people who are extremely successful, this is one of the common denominators they have, is they all start the day off right. My perfect start goes on for about 2 hours. I'm usually in it by 5:30 in the morning. I'm out of it by 7:30. So for me, it's awesome because I get to get my perfect start in before the day begins. But I want to encourage you, don't worry about how long it is. If you're not doing it at all, start small. 10 minutes is really all you got to do, and find a distraction-free place. Okay, you want to make sure that you are not tempted by this gadget right here, okay, or by email or anything like that. You want to be in a distraction-free place, and you want to make sure that you create the time for it. Right now, we have a lot of time, but still, we need to create the time. So if your routine is to get up at whatever time you do, and you don't have the time, then I encourage you, start by setting your alarm 10 minutes early and going to bed 10 minutes earlier. And so here are the things that we do in the Perfect Start. One of my great friends is Bob Bodine, and he wrote the book Two Chairs. I highly recommend this book. And so when my Perfect Start, I get in my office. It's my distraction-free place. I always start, my commute to the office now is 11 seconds, and that includes a fill up with coffee. So I get my coffee before I come in, and then I do 2 chairs. And here's what this is. It's 2 chairs, one for me and one for God. And then I ask God 3 questions. God, do you know what's going on? Man, what a great question to ask right now. And of course, the answer is yes, he does. Number 2, are you big enough to handle it? Well, of course he is. He's God. And then number 3, and this is key here, what's the plan? And so I like to start in the morning just opening up and saying, God, I know you have a plan. What is it? And then just listen. And this takes some practice. I'll be honest with you, 5 minutes never felt so long when you're focused on just receiving. And that's what we need to do in a time like this, is we need to open up and then we need to receive. So that's the first step. The second step here is, once I do that, then I do some reading and some devotionals. I do some scripture. I put the good stuff into my mind. I want to get intentional about what I'm learning. One of my practices is I read through Proverbs every month, but you can read a lot of different books or information that's going to lift your spirit and give you that you need. And I reserve about 20 minutes for that. And if you have never done this, even if you just say take 3 or 4 minutes, that's fine. Step number 3, do some journaling. We had a guy named Greg McGowan who came on to our podcast, the Ziglar Show podcast. He wrote a book called Essentialism. And he said this, he said, I had 2 grandfathers. One of them left me everything. One of them left me nothing. And I thought, wow, what does he mean by that? And then he told the story. You see, when he was a little boy, his family moved away. And because of that, he didn't grow up with his grandfathers. They were not a part of his life. And so he ended up attending his first grandfather's funeral. And as he's sitting in the pew, he realized that he didn't know his grandfather. His grandfather had left him nothing. All the memories of his grandfather were in the people who had lived their life with him. And so a little while later, he attended the funeral of his second grandfather. And he said, this one left me everything. He said, now, I didn't have a relationship with him, but this grandfather had kept a journal every day for 50 years. And in this journal, he wrote 1 sentence a day. And he said, because of that 1 sentence a day, I knew everything that my grandfather was going through. The lessons, the love, the hurt, the pain, the joy. And so I want to encourage you, if you've never journaled before, just 1 sentence a day is a great way to do it. So number 4 is, I use the Ziglar Performance Planner, but you can use anything. You write down all your goals, your dreams, your aspirations. You do your to-do list, and you get very specific on the things that you want to accomplish today and in the future. And you write that out, and you put down a plan of action for each of those things, and you know the time and what it is that you're going to do. This organization at the front of the day really impacts your productivity. And we go very deep into goal setting. And in fact, step number 5 is called the problem solving system, which I'll share with you in a minute. But we can also talk about, it's the same as the goal setting system. So I'll tell you more on that in a little bit. And then I do something called the mental model. And whenever I have on my schedule, right, because I've written in my performance planner the main things that I have for that day. So it could be a phone call with a client. It could be a webinar that I'm delivering. It could be a speech that I'm doing. It could be a coaching segment that I have with a client. As I look at my schedule, and I might have 3 or 4 of those a day on average that I look at, I will spend 1 minute on each one of them creating a mental model. And this is what it looks like. And it's only 1 minute. And the reason I limit it to 1 minute is because I'm just setting myself up for it. So let's just say I have an appointment with somebody. In my 1 minute, I'll think, okay, what's the purpose of the appointment? What's the end result that I want to have? What are the questions that they're likely to bring? What's the personality style of that person? How do they like to be communicated to? What are some things that might hold them back from moving forward with this project or this idea? What are some areas or problems that they might have that I can help serve them? And you see what's happening is I'm creating slots in my mind of how to walk into and have that conversation with them. And this is neuroscience. This is the way the brain works. And in fact, plane crashes have been avoided because of this. There was a great example of a Qantas flight where they had a catastrophic engine failure. And it took out, I think, either 21 or 23 of the avionics systems on the plane. And they were able to land that plane. And it was a flight, I believe, from Singapore to Sydney. So some of you Googleites who want to go research it, you can. It's an amazing story. And the pilots were able to land that plane. I believe it was the Airbus 380. And when they started looking at how they landed the plane, nobody could believe that they were able to do it, because every time they recreated that in the virtual world, right, when they would do the flight simulator and they would recreate what happened, everybody crashed. The experts crashed. Even the people who knew what was going to happen crashed. And yet they were able to land it. And here's what happened. They interviewed the pilots and they said, tell me about this. How were you able to land that plane? And the head pilot, the captain, said, well, on the way to the airport, I started throwing scenarios at the flight crew. I said, hey, what happens if we lose engine number 4? What happens if, this sensor goes off? What happens if we get hit by a goose? Okay. So this is what they did. They role played in the flight, or on the way to the flight. They take off, and then the worst thing imaginable happens. The engine blows up and takes out the avionics and all this stuff in the wing. And so here's what happened. Because they had done the mental model, they were able to process all the scenarios extremely fast. And he said, we realized quickly that there's no way we could deal with 21 systems that all went out at the same time. And we were able to narrow it down to just the 3 systems that would keep the plane up for as long as possible so we could get it in a position to land. So that's why I do it, okay? And right now in a crisis, this is a very powerful tool that we all have at ourselves. And then we do the one thing, okay? So I've got my perfect start. I started off with 2 chairs. I did some devotionals. I worked on my goals for the day. I did the mental model on my most important things, or my meetings that I'm going to have. And then whatever my number 1 priority is, I like to carve out 45 minutes or so to get that done. And this is all before interruption. I will tell you that even before the day starts, I've had an amazing day. And so this is what we call the perfect start. So I want to ask, is there any questions about this? Any feedback, any comments?
As you guys are putting comments out there, I think, so Tom introduced me to this a year ago at that training session, and I wasn't doing this. I would get up in the morning, I would look at my phone to see what emails or text was going on. The earlier I got up, the earlier I got to work. So it didn't matter if I got up earlier, I would just get earlier to work and just start on my day. And after meeting with him, this training session, I started doing this. I started having my 2 chairs time with God. Say, God, what's going on? Are you big enough to handle it? Or and give me a, helping me with a plan. And just sitting there and having some time to just really think. I mean, how many times do we stop and just let our mind just pause and just listen and think? And it's amazing what comes out of that. So that's really been significantly impactful in my life. So that mental model, just really thinking through, allowing your thoughts to help you and get yourself grounded in the beginning of the day. So I've been doing that now for a year and started writing into a journal saying that time is important. Even though there's a list of things I need to do and my day is overwhelming, to pause and help get grounded at that very beginning has been extremely helpful.
All right. So Lucy says she loves the book, Two Chairs. Yeah. I had the privilege of sitting with Bob Bodine at breakfast. We've been having breakfast on a regular basis for 7 or 8 years now. And it's just amazing. We talked through that book as he created and adopted into my life. And it's such a simple thing. And it's like Bob says, if Warren Buffett, if there was a 1% chance that Warren Buffett would sit with you for 5 minutes and you could ask him any financial question, if there was just a 1% chance that you could have that, would you get ready for that meeting? I think we all would, right? I would do it 100 days in a row because I want a meeting. You know what I mean? I want that. Well, what if the creator of the universe would sit with you for 5 minutes? And instead of a 1% chance, there's a 100% chance he's going to be there. It's an amazing time. All right, so let's go into the next section. Some of it we've already talked about, but this is real. And so for those of you who have a team of people or friends and family, this might be the most valuable piece of this that you can share with somebody else. But it's that, I call it the 3 a.m. middle of the night wake up call. What am I going to do? How am I going to go to that next level? How am I going to be productive? And so in the action guide, you get all this, but I'm just going to walk through it step by step. The first thing is just like the perfect start. You go to a distraction-free place, okay? You need quiet. You need some place that you're not going to be interrupted. Now, at 3 in the morning, there's probably a lot of distraction-free places, but hey, if you ever feel overwhelmed during the middle of the day, do this. What's become my friend is my back porch. I'll actually... vitamin D is so powerful right now. It's an immune booster and it's what we need. I'm just finding myself going out in the late afternoon in the Dallas area. Yesterday was amazing. It was like 65 degrees and the sun was shining. And I'm just in the backyard and in my distraction-free place. So find that distraction-free place. It can be in your thing. And now what you want to do first is you want to write down a gratitude list. Now, why do we talk about gratitude? Here's why. Let me tell you what your brain does. When you're under stress, worry, fear, anxiousness, all those things that we don't want, what you've really done is you've activated your kind of high stress response that goes on in your brain. And it usually has 3 things that it'll do: fight, flight, or freeze. Okay, so what does that mean? Fight means that it's, caveman days, okay? The attack comes, we're gonna go after it and fight as much as we can. Now the problem is the scenario is totally changed. And so fighting it the way we used to fight stuff doesn't work, okay? So then there's the flight, that's the run away, that's the quit, that's the give up, that's the flee. And that's a natural response too, but you know what? We've got a stronger mindset. We're leading our family, our team, our community. And so that's really not an option for us. And the third one is freeze. Well, what's freeze? Freeze is when we turtle up, right? It's when we put our head in the sand and we say, well, I'm going to let everybody else figure it out. I'm just going to hunch down and hopefully this will go away. Guys, it's not a time for freezing either. It's a time for action. It's a time for decisive, intentional action because you were made for such a time as this. So what do we do to get our brain out of that negative thought pattern and into the positive? We write the gratitude list and we spend 4 or 5 minutes on it. We write down everything we can be thankful for, right? Our dog, our cat, our slippers that we might have on, the quiet office that we're in, the fact that we're in the US, our family, our spouse, our friends. And the longer this list is, the better. And why do we do this? Because the attitude of gratitude is the healthiest emotion of all.
Mhm.
And fear and gratitude do not exist in the same place. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to change the state of our mind. And why are we doing that? Because we need to unleash the creativity, and it's bound up by anxiety and fear and worry. You know, Dad said this. He said, identifying a problem is not negative, it's positive. It's only negative if you stay focused on the problem. We got to get focused on the solution. And so the gratitude list starts to reframe our state. And then we go from the gratitude list to 2 chairs. Okay, another picture of 2 chairs. This is where we get input from the creator of the universe. Hey, God, do you know what's going on? Are you big enough to handle it? What's the plan? So we open up, we've got the gratitude, we ask God for his direction. It's the same as in the perfect start. And then what do we do next? We create a victory list. Why do we do that? Well, here is the reality. We need to reaffirm and confirm that we've done it before, we can do it again. I mean, a lot of us here on this call, we made it through 2008, didn't we? A lot of us on this call have started more than one business that didn't work out so good. A lot of us on this call have had somebody we love get a disease. We've had a relationship break. We've had a disappointment in our schooling. We've had all kinds of things happen. And yet we overcame those. And yet we persevered. And so write down everything in your life that you consider a victory. Was it closing a deal? Was it graduating from college? Was it winning a game? Was it writing a book? Was it, you know, introducing a new product line? Was it bringing on new people into your organization, training them up so they could be effective? You write that victory list down. And the reason that you do that is because we are confirming and reaffirming that we've done it before, we can do it again. Dad said this, or you know, your past is important, but not near as important as how we see our future, okay? And so what we're trying to do is get our mindset with gratitude, hope, and encouragement for the future, relying and looking at our victories from the past. Step number 5 is this. We got to identify the problem. And I'm going to cover that in detail in the next one. But we've got to identify the problem. We got to write it down. So here's what's happening in our brain. We've got all these open things on our brain, and it's like, what about this? What about this? What about this? What about this? We got to get that on paper. And that is where we identify with complete clarity. That's actually the next step. I'm going to go into that in that. But when we get complete clarity on something and it's on paper, it takes the loops out of our brain and allows us to focus on what we can do, the solution. And here it is, okay? So this is my mind, okay? So I wake up and I'm worried, and I have the gratitude list, and I have the 2 chairs, and I look at my victory list, and then I write the problem out. And then when I write the problem out, there's really 2 columns on it, on the action plan. I write down everything that I can do, that I'm going to take action on starting right now, okay? And then everything that I have no control over, I give it to God. So here's the bottom line. We don't have control over when this virus goes away, when we get a cure, when we get a vaccine, right? We don't have control over that. So I need to let go of that and give it to God. But we've got to take this decisive action of writing down and doing what we can do, and then turning the rest over. And then I encourage you, go back to sleep. You've done all you can. You take massive action on what you can. What you don't have control over, you turn over. All right, so that is step number 4. All right.
The Lord gives us in Philippians 4:8, he talks about that. Just think on what is good and what is lovely and what is pure. And I know myself, when I'm starting to get down, I'll go and read that verse and think, right, I've got to focus on what is good out there. That's what, Tom is giving us the the guidance and the tools right here to help us think what is good going on, and so that our mind can be clear, not so on the negative, so we can think, hey, what are some good solutions to any problem that we're trying to face?
Absolutely. And so I'll wrap it up with this. Our company is known, probably recognized for one of the premier goal setting systems in the world. Okay. We help individuals and organizations set and achieve goals. That's what we do. Dad wrote about it in the book, See You at the Top. So it's over 40 years ago, over 50 years ago, I believe, 72. I don't know what the math escapes me, almost 50 years ago. But did you know that 80% of people are not goals focused? They're problem focused. Okay. And so here's the difference. 20%, they wake up in the morning and they're going for their goals. They get excited about it. They want to do it. They got the dream, the vision, whatever. 80% are problem solvers. They love getting up and writing the to-do list out, right? This is what I'm going to solve today. So everybody who's a problem solver who felt guilty about not getting excited about goal setting, I'm about to change your world. You no longer have to feel guilty about not being motivated by goals, because problem solving and goal setting are just two sides of the same coin. The system to set and achieve a goal is exactly the same system as it is to solve a problem. So I'm going to go through this quick. So step number one in your action guide, and the reason this is actually a screenshot of the action guide. You can actually, when you get it, you can actually write your goals in here, type it in and save it, or you can print it out and write it on the side. It's the same thing. So step number one in the 7 steps is you identify your problem. You write it down clearly. You get it out of your head. You've got to understand. So, and I'll give you the difference between a goal and a problem. Okay. So my goal might be to lose 20 pounds. My problem is I weigh 20 pounds too much. See how they're the same thing? It's just the perspective that you come at it from. And so in this system, what we're saying is we got we're in a military terminology, we are in a target rich environment. We are surrounded by problems. Isn't that right? They're everywhere. And so this is how you get through it. So you write the problem down. Number 2 is you list all the benefits of solving the problem. The reason you want to list every benefit you can is because that will give you the staying power to continue through it and to solve it. Okay. If there aren't a lot of benefits involved in solving the problem, then people move on. And this is a big mistake that a lot of people make in goal setting and in problem solving, is they don't clearly identify and let it sink in all the things, the benefits of solving that problem will have. Step number 3, we got to list the obstacles and mountains to climb to solve the problem. Most people, they go straight to the solution, right? Straight to the plan of action. And then they get blindsided by a problem or an obstacle or a mountain they've got to overcome because they didn't anticipate it. So in our system, what we say is think first of all the problems and obstacles and mountains that are going to prevent you from getting this done, and detail them out so you can have a strategy to handle them. For me, when it comes to weight loss, one of my obstacles is popcorn. My body retains popcorn. And so what do? Is I get the popcorn out of the house before I get serious. Step number 4, skills and knowledge required to solve this problem. What don't I know? What knowledge do I not have? What skill do I need to develop in order to solve it? Write that down. That's why we're in such an opportunity right now with the stronger mindset to go and grow, because we're discovering things that are going to prepare us for a new and different world. Step number 5. List the individuals, groups, and companies to work with. Who do you need help from? I mean, do you got to call your financial accountant? Do you need to call an expert in banking? Do you need to call, your manufacturing partners or your vendors to work through a situation like this? Everybody who's worried about the rent and paying the landlord right now, I can guarantee you that they don't want empty space. The bank doesn't want that property back. It's just, so what do? Well, we got to work with them. We got to call them. Step number 6 is create the plan of action. What's the step by step by step? And then we write that out in detail, and then we start taking action on it. And then number 7 is the completion date. And I always tell people the completion date needs to be realistically aggressive, meaning that it's not too far distant and it's not too close, but it is close enough that I got to start on it now. And I'll tell you what I want to do is I want to wrap this up. I got 2 minutes before my next one. So I just wanted to say this. I'm going to tie this down spiritually. So just a personal word from me. My father, Zig Ziglar, was a believer, a Christian. I call myself a Christ follower. And when I was thinking of the stronger mindset, it all of a sudden hit me that my dad's life verse was Romans 8:28. And look at this. And we know that God causes all things to work together for good to those who love God. I mean, as a believer, what an awesome thought that God knows what's going on. And regardless of how tough it is and how we don't like it, he's going to make it work together for good. That is an amazing amount of hope. That should set our smile and our steely, gritty determination, our expect the best attitude in there. And then that was Dad's life verse. And then I thought of my own life verse. And Annie, when I picked this life verse, I was 12 years old. I mean, that was 43 years ago. I'll be honest with you, my big trial was deciding what dessert to eat at Luby's. I mean, that was it. That was the hard day for me. But look at what this says. Consider it all joy, my brethren, when you encounter various trials, knowing the testing of your faith produces endurance. When you take those 2 verses and you put them together, we've got hope in the future that God's causing everything to work together for good, and we're being perfected in the trial. So I asked myself, why am I going through this trial? Could it be that we're all seeing the things that don't matter peeled away so that we can step fully into our purpose? And as leaders, I'm just encouraging you. Your family depends on you. Your team depends on you. The community depends on you. When they see you stand tall in the furnace with the stronger mindset, your light shines. The smallest candle in a dark room can light the whole room. And that's where we are today. So Annie, I'll turn it back over to you, and then I'm going to have to jump off. But I tell you what, it's been amazing to have me here. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Tom, for being here. I know you've got to go, so thank you so much. I tell you what, trials do happen all the time, and when we do have that hope, this will be posted on our website. And I wanted to close with a quote from Zig Ziglar, and it says, "You were designed for accomplishment, engineered for success, and endowed with the seed of greatness." And wow, that's right. That's how we were designed. And we've got the seed of greatness in it. Tom's given us some good tools on how to feed. How do we feed that seed and bring that hope and positive outlook? And I think starting the day, if you don't do it already, I'd encourage you to do it. I just started a year ago. So it's never too late to starting our day right, just like that. So we will have this posted on the website, and also the book this Stronger book, it can be downloaded for free. You just need to go to Ziglar.com and it'll pop up right there and you can download that. Tom's given that as a gift to everyone. So thank you, Tom, for that. All right. Thank you. Thank you everyone for joining us. All right.
Blessings, everyone.
You too. Bye-bye.